like we've said this before. I've had you on the show a long time, a lot of times. We've had the show now for over a year. You've been on the show maybe 6, 7 times now, I believe, between the game
And when you
show.
had the game show, I was the judge the most times, 3 times.
Yeah, so you were one of our most sought after judges. You've been a guest many times. I think the only one that might rival you is Joey Petroni. I think the two of you might be neck and neck, as far as appearances go. But for you, we always talk about how you're an old soul, and you have this kind of old school vibe, and your love for guys like W.C. Fields and Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and all those greats. I wanted to know, as a young great Goonan, as a young child, um, when did you fall in love with that era, the 30s and the 40s of comedy?
Well, when you're around my age, I think. So, like when we were growing up, a lot of these things were on television. In New York, there was something like there was a thing called on the PBS Channel 13. It was called Cinema 13. And usually late at night on the weekends, sometimes there were the monster movies like, the Wolfman and stuff like that. But there was also the Marx Brother movies and W.C. Fields, Laurel and Hardy. And you would stay up to watch those just like you would stay up to watch Saturday Night Live, but it would be on even later than Saturday Night Live. So you could stay up a little bit later and watch those. And we were allowed to. My father would say, oh, no, you could stay up to watch the Marx Brothers. And I go, oh, and so like you're staying up, which makes you seem like you're doing something very adult. And then you're watching these adults who are acting like cartoons. And, I think anybody who values comedy would love to be Groucho for a day or something, and just to be that type of fast talking, almost cartoon character. It's like really my favorite comedian. I always say, no offense, but my favorite comedian is Bugs Bunny. Because when I was growing up, Bugs Bunny was on TV all the time. You can't find it on TV now, but it used to be on TV all the time. And of course, Bugs Bunny is very influenced by Groucho Marx.
I was going to say Bugs is basically Groucho.
Right, with the carrot instead of the cigar and stuff like that. But I mean, you would love to. Still to this day, I wish to rise to that level of comedy and rise to that level of being that purely funny. I mean, those Warner Brothers cartoons are like 7 minutes on average, and they're the best, most complete pieces of comedy over and over again. And the Marx Brothers predate that and are influenced to that too, and all those people from that era.
Yeah, I agree. And whenever I ask people how comedy evolved from then, I think I'm saying it wrong, because it's almost how the comedy devolved from them. Because I think we've all been trying to catch that fire from those early guys. The jokes might evolve and go down different pathways, but it's all the same core of what's funny and what's not funny, and having that fast paced one-liners, that quick thinking of Groucho and guys like that. I think I don't know who can come close to that nowadays. I feel like that art form might be gone now. That kind of quick thinking, fast paced one-liners.
Yeah, that was a different time period where the comedians were almost like cartoons. And I mean, like, think about Groucho and think about the Marx Brothers. All their movies are in black and white. If the movies were in color, they would look too ridiculous. They would look too silly. You could tell that the mustache is painted on and Harpo's wig is fake. The whole concept of Harpo is ridiculous. This guy who he's not even a mute. He just doesn't speak.
Say, who are you anyway? I don't go in much for modern art. Have you got anything by one of the old masters? Not bad.
And he honks a horn, and his brothers, they're not his brothers others in the movies. But the Italian Chico knows what he's saying. Honk, honk. Oh, really? Someone's in trouble? I mean, the idea of those characters in general are fantastical. And now there's, comedy, especially when there's more of an emphasis on monologists, on stand-ups now. People tend to think that you have to plow your innermost psyche, and the more autobiographical you are, the more you're a better comedian. But that isn't necessarily true. It never has been true.
Yeah, somewhere along the way, I think it was like in the 90s, maybe it started to happen
I think
after
way
the
before
80s.
that.
Yeah,
I think it's with the popularity of Richard Pryor.
And I remember tricks used to come through our neighborhood. That's where I first met white people. They come down through our neighborhood to help the economy. Nice white dudes, though, because I could have been a bigot. You know what I mean? I could have been prejudiced.
Because Richard Pryor was so great at plowing his psyche and making his personal business into comedy, that people think that that's what you have to do. And what they don't remember about him is that that's only a small portion of his comedy. If you look at, especially if you look at Richard Pryor's movies and so that, he's very much an old style comedian who does a lot of and he falls and does all those things. It's funny how people think they're more original than who came before them, when that has never been true. If you think about Saturday Night Live, when it first came out, it was considered like cutting edge and new and all that. But if you think about it, Chevy Chase did Pratfalls.
Whereas
it was all and skits. They weren't really doing anything different. They were just younger people. Yeah, they were doing sketches and stuff like that. So they weren't doing anything different from the variety shows that were before them. They were just younger people, and maybe the subjects they were broaching were different. But
it was hipper and cooler, but it was still vaudeville. It was still, they did song parodies, they did sketches, they did straight stand-up, they did all kinds of stuff. Impersonations and all that stuff was taking place. They cross-dress, all that. That was all done on vaudeville years and years and years before SNL and all of that. But yeah, so it's like you said, we just keep reinventing the same thing, only hipper to a hipper, younger crowd, because it's a young.
And eventually, whatever is considered hip is going to be considered not hip.
Hello.
So, like there are people who probably don't think that stuff that we thought was so cutting edge is so cutting edge now, and everything always changes, But I don't think being cutting edge has anything to do with whether or not something's funny. Like, I don't think there's anything cutting edge about Jackie Gleason or edgy, really, let's say, but it's still great.
Because that one taps into all of us. We all feel like we are Jackie Gleason. I think we could all see ourselves, because he was just out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, all his faults and everything that was wrong with him, we saw in ourselves. That's what I think. What makes him great was that he put it. That character was just out there. All the sores and pimples and everything for all of us to see.
I don't. This might be a little off topic, but Gleason is a particularly interesting comedian to me. He's one of my favorites, but he's one of the few comedians who, if you talk about his persona and everything, there's sort of a cool quality to him. You think of him almost the way you think of Sinatra and stuff like that, because he's a pool player and all these other things that he did. The comedians of his time, like Milton Berle and Sid Caesar, they don't have that same cool factor that he has.
That's true. He does. He is kind of like that Jack Nicholson vibe. Yeah, he does have a coolness to him. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that, but that is very true. But yeah, I mean, what, I don't know if it worries me. Like, I'm not staying up at night, about it. But I think a lot of these guys, you talk about Sid Caesar and Milton Berle, and we talk about the Marx Brothers and W.C. Fields and Bob Hope. don't want the younger generations to lose touch with that, because the younger kids don't have they're not going to watch PBS and stay up in the middle of the night. They're going to look at their phones and watch TikTok videos all night, and their comedians are YouTubers, and I'm afraid that they're going to lose the history, or not care about it, the history of comedy.
Well, you could look at it a different way. Because of YouTube and because of the internet, a lot of this stuff is so much easier to access now. I mean, like, we grew up and those old movies were on at night, and I think Sunday afternoons would be the Abbott and Costello movies. The Warner Brothers cartoons were still on television.
Every Saturday.
But then there was a period of time, probably from the late 90s into the 2000s, was very hard to get any of that material. And then once the internet flourished, there's probably a lot more stuff now that you can access just on YouTube that you could never have accessed before. And so there is the possibility that people know more now.
But they have so many choices, because with us, right, when we grew up, it was, you could argue, it's 13 channels. There really was only 4. And then, so we would watch like Channel 11. That would be all like you said, on Sundays would be Abbott and Costello and Tarzan and all those old karate movies and that kind of stuff. And, and then you watch your regular. Yeah. So we had no choices. We had to watch that. It was the only thing on. So a lot of shows we watched, like Leave It to Beaver and all these old sitcoms, My Three Sons and all this stuff. You think any kid today knows My Three Sons? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think they know your sons, if that's what you're talking about. Like, why would they know your family?